What's good people, and welcome back to the channel here on Crewboy Productions. My name is BK, and this is the Silly, Nerdy, and Wordy podcast, episode number 74, The Old Guard 2 spoiler review, the new film from Netflix. What's going on, everyone? I hope everyone is doing very well as this summer rolls on. And in this video, I'll be giving my spoiler review thoughts on the new Netflix film, The Old Guard 2, and I'll be dropping some nerdy notes along the way about some particular roles on this film that played key moments to me. And so I just want to shout those roles and those people behind those roles. So let's get into this film. And again, this is a spoiler, a warning for The Old Guard 2. You have been warned. The director for this film, her name is Victoria Mahoney. Her previous projects include being a second unit director on Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, which released in 2019. Very cool that she can say, I worked on a Star Wars project. She has that on her resume. She also directed Yelling to the Sky. That was in 2011. And then she did some TV. She directed one episode of Suits LA earlier this year. Love that show. Shouldn't have been canceled. And then also she directed an episode of The Morning Show, the great show that is on Apple TV. She directed one episode back in 2021. And then she also directed one episode of Power, and that show is on Stars. Now, this cast includes Charlize Theron, and Charlize is also a producer on this film. And then also it has Chiwetel Ejiofor, Veronica Newell, Kiki Lane, Uma Thurman, Luca Marnelli, and Henry Golding. And so with this film, I want to read the synopsis that this film has. And it reads, Andy, which is Charlize Theron's character, leads immortal warriors against a powerful enemy threatening their group. And that powerful enemy is Uma Thurman's character. They grapple with resurfacing of a long-lost immortal, complicating their mission to safeguard humanity. And so that is the synopsis of this film. And for me, overall, I enjoyed this film. So I was very excited when they were making a sequel to this film. I did enjoy the first one. For me, overall, it was a great, solid, fun movie. A good story. The action in this was really good. They visited a lot of locations, which I will get to, but I definitely enjoyed it, especially after the initial opening once they pulled the long lost immortal from sea and they got into this great action set piece. I really enjoyed it. The hand-to-hand combat, particularly in the beginning, and there's one other scene that I'll get to, but Charlize was really great in this, all that she had to do, and apparently she did the majority of her stunts, not everything, but she did a lot of her stunts. Particularly, there's one scene at the end sequence, I would say, where she's hanging from a helicopter as well as fighting with Uma Thurman. She said in a Today Show interview that whole sequence took them about 3 weeks for them to film that sequence. But the first sequence I want to talk about is the action set piece when they're at this house in I believe Split, Croatia, and Charlize is she's by a window, she's fighting someone with a sword, and it's almost like a dance the way the way they did this. Well, choreography is a dance when you're fighting or dancing. And it was just very fluid, very nice, and it was very intentional. And the way it ended, she had the sword and just plunged it into the enemy, and the way her stance ended, it's almost like she was on one knee and her leg was kind of spread, the opposite leg was spread out, almost like she ended it in a lunge, if you want to think about working out. with a sword. And then also her castmate, she did a stunt. The actress Kiki Lane came through the window on a rope through, and then she did a roll, landed on her knee, unholstered her gun, and just had it pointed at the enemy. So both of those things between Charlize Theron and Kiki Lane happening simultaneously, that was just a really fluid, just really cool scene to see. I imagine that took multiple takes to get that right with doing that. And I've been watching it back on the dailies, but that was just a cool scene to see. And the way it was executed, it just looked really cool for the film. But just the execution of it between the two actors and their stunt women and the stunt team as well, very, very well done. I definitely enjoyed that as the scene was opening, as well as everyone else in that sequence in terms of what was happening in that big house. But just that sequence there by the window was very, very cool when that was happening. And then also another action sequence that I want to point out that I really, really enjoyed. This was, I want to say, in the second act of the film. I want to say about halfway through. It was between Charlize Theron's character and Veronica's Noel's character. They were fighting hand-to-hand combat. It was just the two of them fighting, but they were on a brick wall street, and the spacing between them and where they were fighting was very specific. They were between a wall and a parked car, I want to say, and the length of that was very specific. It was long enough for both of them to stretch their arms and have a wingspan, as well as for Veronica's character to use the car to have herself have one hand on the wall and one hand on the car as she was avoiding Charlize Theron's as they were fighting. So they were just fighting within that space, and they didn't have much space to work with, but it was long enough. Obviously, it was measured, but just that whole fight sequence in that small space, it was very contained. I really enjoyed how they did that, how that was choreographed, and then how it was executed by the actors and the stunt performing team. Really, really just great action all around. But those two particular action sequences really, really stood out to me. The one at the end was pretty good too, with Uma Thurman and Charlize Theron. Getting back to the story was pretty good. It continued from the sequel from the 2020 film. And if you've seen the 2020 film, Charlize Theron's character lost her immortality towards the end of the first one. As we are in this second film, she does get her immortality back towards the end of this film. And also the rest of the cast was pretty solid as well. And the way this film ended, you can already just see that they had this in mind in terms of there is going to be a third movie. It is their intention to have a third film. Now, it could be a couple of options. One, they went into writing this script with the intention of, we want to continue this story and we're going to have this third film happen. Or it may be the writing process evolved into having a third film. Because if you see the film, the way it ended, Victoria Noel's character comes around and they rekindle their relationship, their friendship. And so her team, Charlize's team, is taken. And so she has to go after them. And so that's where the story ends. You see that they intend to have a third movie. Although it's not official yet, they do have to wait and see how this movie performs for them to see if they're going to get a third movie. So I don't know at this point in time if they've been given that chance, or maybe that was already decided before this second film was released, but they did that with the intention of having the third movie just based off the way it ended. This wasn't something like we're just going to leave the door open just in case. Like this whole story was from the intention of, we are going to have a third movie. That's what we want to do. But it all depends on how this movie performs on Netflix. So I enjoyed this film very much. So very, very good. And another thing I wanted to kind of go back to, I talked about the two fight sequences that I enjoyed very much. So as I was watching the movie, I finished watching the movie and then the credits start to roll and I just kept watching it and I just decided, well, let me just look at the credits, and then I started to see some of the names. So what I did was I actually just paused the credits and wrote down some of the particular roles that I wanted to talk about and their names and just highlight them based off some things in this movie. So I want to start off with two people from the stunts, which is first the fight coordinator, which is Georgi Manchev. He was the fight coordinator on this, which obviously he had a lot to do with the fight sequences in this film, and as well as the two sequences that I went into. So I want to highlight Georgi Manchev, and let's take a look at some of his previous projects that Georgi Manchev has worked on. So his previous projects includes he worked on 2 episodes of Game of Thrones back in 2015, just being in the stunt department, just a stunt man back then, not being the head guy. He also worked on Gladiator 2, which was released last year in 2024. He also worked on The Protege as an assistant stunt coordinator and fight choreographer. And I actually saw that film. I have that Blu-ray, enjoyed that film. And then lastly, he worked on John Wick Chapter 2, the 2017 film. He worked in the stunt department as well on that John Wick film. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then also another person from that team is the assistant stunt coordinator, and her name is Elitsa Rancheva. And her previous projects that she has worked on include House of the Dragon season 1 and 2 episodes she worked on there as a stunt performer. And also she worked on London Has Fallen. She worked in stunts there, that 2016 film. She also worked on Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves as a stunt double in that 2023 film. Just wanted to highlight those two people from the stunt department, as well as the entire stunt team, all the stunt men and women that were involved. Many names, too many names to name, but there were a lot involved in them. So hats off to them. Great job with the fight sequence. It just looked really, really great all around. Now let's get to some of the locations. They went to a couple of locations. I want to highlight 5 in total. They went to Split, Croatia, as I mentioned before. Also Paris, France, Seoul, South Korea, Rome, Italy. Really great. Have a personal connection there. And they went to Jakarta, Indonesia. So 5 locations that the story of this film took place in, that they went through this movie. And another role that I want to highlight in this is the supervising location manager, and his name is Enrico Latella. And let me tell you some of the previous projects that he worked in the location management department, or he was the location manager for these particular projects. So some of the things he previously worked on is Tenet. That was the 2020 film from Christopher Nolan. He worked in the location management department there. He also worked on the film Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, the 2023 film. He worked on that as well. And then the Six Underground film that was on Netflix back in 2019. He worked on the location management department there. Also, House of Gucci. He was a location scout on that film, which was back in 2021. The last film I'll have that he worked on is Zoolander 2. Back in 2016, he worked in the location management department for that film. So just wanted to shout out that role because of the different locations that they went to. And so I just wanted to highlight a couple of those roles because the locations they went to and the stunt work in this movie and the fighting sequences, really, really, really top tier. Enjoyed this movie. Now, I hope it does well. I hope it does get greenlit to have a third movie because I want to see how this movie ends, the way they ended this second movie. Enjoy the cast. Charlize Theron was really a standout for me this case in terms of her fighting, the emotion she showed throughout this story. Just enjoyed her performance, the pacing. There were some slow moments there for me that took me out of it for a time or two, but overall still enjoyed the movie very, very much. And I think that is all I have to say for this film. So let me know what you thought about this film. Have you seen the first Old Guard film? Will you be seeing Old Guard 2? Maybe you've seen it already, and if you have, let me know your thoughts. What were some of your favorite moments in this movie? Did you enjoy some of those fight sequences that I mentioned? Maybe there were some other ones that you like better that I didn't mention. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, or let me know your thoughts in a review as well on the other podcast platforms. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And for those of you that have subscribed and recently subscribed, thank you very much. It is very much appreciated. And I also want to say that I am on wherever you can get your podcast in terms of listening to this show. You can definitely do that. Just search for the Silly, Nerdy, and Wordy podcast and follow it, and you will find it there. And leave a review, leave a comment, and give us a rating on those, as well as subscribing here on the YouTube channel and watching and listening here and on Spotify. Also, you can watch this on Spotify as well. So I hope you've enjoyed my breakdown and nerdy notes on this film. And that's all I have for now. Hope you've enjoyed. So until next time, we will talk soon.